Sure. We actually like each other. Come on in. All right. All right, thank you all, and welcome. I just want to start with the fact that I would very much like to just use this opportunity to give you information that I think is of import as it relates to the murder of Joshua Byrd. I want to start by offering condolences to his family. It's my understanding that they're working on arrangements today, and so they won't be at the arraignment as a result of that. And so they're not here with us today, but we pray for that family and law enforcement family that had a major loss last Thursday. I want to also just thank all of the individuals who joined me here. We have multiple representatives from CHP, we have Oakland Housing Authority, we have the Alameda County Sheriff and OPD. The reason they're here is because I want to talk a little bit about their efforts as it relates to solving this case and bringing it to us for charging. There are very specific reasons for this press conference, and I'm not going to get into a lot of detail. I want folks to be able to make it to the arraignment as well. But the goal today is brief. I want to inform the public about the charges as it relates to this murder. I also want to give the public a little history about the defendant's past criminal history. And I want to also just lift up law enforcement for their efforts in resolving this case. First and foremost, as it relates to charges, there are multiple charges in this case. First being murder of a parole agent, that being Joshua Byrd, with special circumstances, and that's because of his peace officer status. There are gun enhancements. There's also a robbery of a passenger on an AC transit bus, theft of a vehicle during an escape, and a felon in possession of firearm. All of these also include enhancements as well as a two-strike enhancement, which makes this a third strike if convicted. The defendant, Mr. Hall, had a prior case that was charged in November of 2022. That was charged officially with the attempt 187 and then also a 245, which is basically assault. So attempted murder and assault with a weapon. That case went to a preliminary hearing and an information was filed after that. And I think it's of import that we discuss what that means. At that time that the information was filed, there was still a special directive in place. The special directive did not allow for enhancements to be charged. So as a result of that, great bodily injury was not charged. And in addition to that, not only great bodily injury, but strikes were alleged, but they could not be considered under that directive. And specifically, prosecutors could not, they had to plead strikes under the law, but they could not use those strikes as it relates to any plea bargaining without permission from the prior administration. There was a plea taken in January of 2025 while that directive was still in place, and sentencing occurred on February 7th, 2025, again while that directive was still in place. My first order of business when I came to this office was to get rid of that directive. I want to be clear about what that means. The charge that the defendant pled to was basically an assault. As a result of none of those enhancements and none of the strikes, he got 4 years at halftime, so he did 2 years in custody. Had he had that same allegation with the enhancements and strikes, we would have been looking at more like 12 years at 85%. So that's a huge difference in time. I want to lift up the family in this matter and to let them know that we're here, that we stand with them, we support them, but also just to tell you about the collaboration with law enforcement during this case. All of these agencies are not all of the agencies that were involved on the 17th of July. There were, FBI was here, other agencies were involved, everybody pitched in, and this is one of those cases where everybody was needed. I didn't ask any of these individuals behind me to come here to speak to you. I asked them to come here so I could tell them that they did a bang-up job on this, that they did it quickly, They did it efficiently, and they did it thoroughly, such that we were able to charge this case today, and it will be on for arraignment this afternoon at 2 p.m. at Wiley Manual Courthouse. So all I'm saying to these folks, to either side of me, is that I know you have a loss that none of us can ever fix. I know that this family has a loss that none of us can ever fix, but we can be supportive to the family and law enforcement who puts their lives on the line every day, doing a very difficult job. Now, that's really all I had for you. My expectation is you will move to Wiley Manual for the arraignment. I'll take very few questions. Yes?
I know a lot of your facilities, your respective agency facilities, CHP, OPD, are pretty well secured, fortified. The average member of the public can't roam around. I know CDCR isn't here, but any thoughts about confirming there were no metal detectors at that location, Edgewater, that allowed this convicted felon to go in there where they don't?
There are no thoughts about that. That's not why I'm here today. I'm specifically here to make sure that the case has been charged appropriately. We can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt based upon the information we have. And I'm not Cal OSHA, nor am I a civil lawyer. I want to make sure that everyone here knows that the information we have leads us to believe that we can prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. That's why we charged it. So I don't have an opinion on that.
Did Byrd and Hall have any prior interactions?
As it relates to prior interactions, I don't know. We can't find any at this point. What I do know is that the defendant showed up to the parole office a day late for an appointment, and that Mr. Byrd was not his parole agent. Anything else briefly?
Yeah, I didn't hear that last statement. Mr. Byrd
Was not his parole agent.
Thank you. And could you talk about what the maximum exposure is in this case given the charges as filed?
Life without possibility of parole. All right, so I thank you all for being here. My expectation is you'll move over to the arraignment to Wiley Manual. Sorry we had to have you running from place to place, but thank you for being here.